Yeah.
Oh, well, hello, and a very warm welcome to the Andrew Eborn Show. I'm delighted to bring back a long-time guest of the show, friend of the show, Errol Musk. How are you, Errol?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Yes. And you?
Very good. It's been a pleasure seeing you on social media, doing your various exploits around the world. You've been a busy man in much demand, as always.
Yes. I've been, since we last spoke, I've been in many places around the world. Most of the time I've been in many of the place that really, amazed me is Russia, It's very first world. It's very first world, very clean. Um, you know, I went to church twice while I was there, you know, believe it or not. I'm not I used to be a regular churchgoer many years ago with a family and so on. But these days, I don't live near anywhere where there's a church anyway. But yeah, so I went to church twice in Russia, and I was amazed by the singing. The singing, they have this chanting, of the priests, and it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
I know it is, and you've been invited back again, I understand.
Oh yes, I have so many invitations to go back. I'm on a Russian television network tomorrow, and but it's about longevity. It's about not longevity. It's about the birth rate. So a lot of the discussions I have with Russia, with the Russian people, are about really important things, not about frivolous stuff. It's very serious.
Right.
So, for example, the birth rate. The birth rate in Russia at the moment is better than Europe. So it's something like 1.7, but that's not good enough.
Yes.
And yes, so their idea is to try and push it to 3. In other words, for every 2 people that you have now, I mean, you probably know more about this than I do, but anyway, for every 2 people you have now, with a 1.7 birth rate, in the next generation, there will be 30% less people, if you know what I mean,
Yeah, no, and
or something like
it's
that.
a worrying concern. Elon's posted about this regularly. We
Yes,
had Ben Habib on the show. You've met him. You've been on together as well. He's
yes.
encouraging people to bonk for Britain.
Well, yes, and he was talking about the birth rate with the Italian Prime Minister, I think it was, lady or president or whatever she is, and yeah, and their birth rate is 1.3,
Right.
so that's pretty concerning,
It's
you know.
greatly concerning when you have a look at that around the world and what's going to happen. People always worry about population explosion. In fact, it's completely the opposite.
Yes, exactly, and I don't know. I mean, I know that when I was, in my teens or something, the world population was 3 billion.
Right.
So I was told. I remember. And then as it went on, it became like 7 billion, which is pretty weird. But again, a lot of this is not, I mean, it's happening in places where they least can afford to have children, you know, which is pretty worrying.
Well,
So
it's
I
a
don't
big
know. To me,
big
that's pretty
concern. Yeah.
worrying anyway. So, but I remember being in Canada in 1972. At the time, I was like very young. I was about 25, and but I was a very young 25, and I went over there to look at engineering projects because I wanted to learn what they do there. But anyway, that was why I was what I was going to talk about. But I remember I met a woman in Vancouver, and she was a professional medical something or other, and she was telling me that they have a big problem in Canada. This was 1972. That um, the birth rate is 1.
One. Good heavens.
1. So in other words, for every 2, they're being replaced by 1. And I didn't quite understand what she was talking about in those days. I didn't. I was too young to comprehend it.
Yes.
But I never forgot the conversation. And I realized now what she was getting at. At the time, I thought, well, why are they so picky about not having children? What's wrong with it? They're not having, what's the idea, But she said it, and she explained to me, no, it's one is very serious problem. But so yeah, of course, today I understand it very much, and so the end result is, of course, people moving into those countries were quite different to the people that live there. And you have that problem in England now, for example. I mean, it's very difficult, very difficult.
Yeah, and there were the other thing you've looked at and we're heavily involved in, you and I discussed as well, is about longevity and these longevity clinics.
Yes.
How's that going?
Yeah, well, the longevity project is very big. I mean, I do two shows a week now on longevity with people in California.
Right.
And we talk to different people in China. It's all organized by a professor from Stanford University, a Chinese professor from Stanford. But he's so American that you'd never think he's Chinese. You know what I mean? He's totally American, But anyway, when we talk about longevity to different people, different guests and things like that. And sometimes I'm only on for a few minutes or something. But anyway, the thing is, it's a big subject because the professors at Stanford have come up with the concept that human life is going to be 120 years.
Yes.
And so, that's quite mind-boggling, really, because, that's what they say. And they say with the techniques available and the health, tricks and all that sort of stuff, people should be living to it. So I'm one of the guinea pigs. They reckon. So I already look 119.
No, so. You're a spring chicken, Errol. It's got to. So tell me then, because a lot of people be fascinated. Everybody loves longevity, and when you and I have had those previous conversations, they all burst a blood vessel, getting very excited. What are the top tips for living forever?
Live forever.
Well, for 120 feels like forever. What are the top tips to increase your life?
What are the top things that would increase your life?
Yes, to 120, they say that's going to be the benchmark.
They've given me a diet, things to avoid, and things that I must take. Now, I must say, when I started on this diet, on this thing, I was very surprised to find that I was starting to get cold feet if the weather was just a little off. My feet would get cold.
Right.
And that was like annoying me. I even went to see a podiatrist to ask a podiatrist, what is wrong with that if the weather is just a little off, I start having to take my shoes, a shoe off one at a time and massage my feet, And I remember when I was very young, when I was married to Elon's mother, May, she used to complain about her feet being so cold at night. And I would try and warm her feet up, when she was only in her 20s then. But anyway, since I have been on this diet, I don't have that anymore.
Right.
And then I don't have these cold feet anymore. And it's really quite a surprise to me. And then the other thing is, they told me I have to increase certain vitamins. So I did increase, according to what they told me, the vitamin D, this and that, and this, the other. And I had started to lose hair on my legs. I didn't have a great. I'm a sort of fair person, so I didn't have very much dark hair on my body. But my legs, sort of became kind of bald long ago, a few years ago. I mean, not really, but the rest of me is all right. But my arms also became. And then I went on these things, and now my legs are covered in hair again.
So the sort of Sasquatch approach, which is so. Tell me then, what is this diet, and what are those pills? What are you taking?
Oh, it's a whole lot of things. I would have difficulty, and they may not like me to talk about the process or something, but yeah. So it's various things, supplements, and various vitamins, and B12 is one of the big ones, and then others, K2 and D this and D that and stuff, and yeah. So I just do it. I mean, I'm a guinea pig. I'm not one of them. I'm a guinea pig. I'm running around.
Well, you're certainly getting results. You say you've got hairy legs and your toes are not cold. It's probably because of the hairy legs. So that's always helpful.
Yes. It's quite funny, I mean, it's really funny, I mean, you go down to your leg and what the hell is on my leg? And it's hair.
Right.
Oh my God,
And the diet itself, apart from these supplements, and as you say, there's a list of those with every possible alphabet letter you can think of. What's the main sort of food you can eat? Have you had to change your diet significantly?
Yes. They advise you they advise you to give up coffee.
No coffee,
which
okay.
Which is difficult. So I have given up coffee. So I drink a coffee substitute called chicory, and that seems to be okay. And they've advised me to cut out various things, so or to add various things and cut out certain other things. I just doing it, It's not really big things. And
but can you eat meat, or do you have to go on to fish? I mean, are you allowed to eat other things, such as obviously meat? You enjoyed your steak. You and I have enjoyed a pint or two in a good British pub.
Yes, well, I don't want to go into the whole diet thing because it's not that complicated, but they've told me to, let's put it this way, I'd have to speak to them. They are, this is a business that involves income and money, and
right.
And they've got some of the most famous people in America on their diet, I mean, that one of these people I've been speaking to is, he owned the National Football League or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Some big shot. I don't know. Dan and some of the other. Anyway, he's on their system as well, and he's not a little short of 60, I think, but he's like unreal, with he's like 30-year-old or 25-year-old. I don't know, and so I don't know. All I can say is that I do know that before the First World War, I've mentioned this maybe before to you.
Yes.
The average life of a European woman was 39.
Right.
So an average woman would get to 40, 42, or 37, but the average was 39 years. That was not even 110 years ago, roughly, or something like that. It's really in our life. We have people who lived at that time still around, and or do we? Probably not. But at any rate, we certainly had grandparents or in that time. So now the average age of a European woman is in the mid-80s. Expected life expectancy. Now that's pretty weird.
Well, seismic advance, yes.
If you said to people in 1913 or something that in due course, all the ladies are going to live well into their 80s, they would have said, nobody we know is doing that, or hardly anyone we know that's doing that. But I think there were, of course, some people who did live on. But it was quite interesting. It brings me on to another subject that is quite interesting, and that is divorce versus remarriage after your partner passes away.
Yes.
Because the Oxford University at that time, some time ago rather, Oxford University published a sort of paper on the fact that divorce has taken over from what used to be happen as a result of death. So prior to, let's say prior to the First World War, if you lived to the age of 70, the chances are you would have been married to 4 people.
Wow.
10 years, 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. If you were one of those who lived to 70. And then I looked at this and I had a look at some of our local well-known sort of characters of those days. And lo and behold, first one I looked at was Paul Kruger. Yes, he had 4 wives He lived to the age of 75, and he was married to each one for 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. And then I looked at another one, and he was married to 7 wives, but he lived to 80, and he had 7 wives, another well-known historical figure. And so you start looking at these, and then you realize that the Oxford paper was accurate, because what that Oxford paper said, with people living longer, they're replacing death with divorce.
Right.
So that they now do exactly the same, but it's with divorce. So if a person, probably not as bad as 4 times, but if a person lives to 70, the chances are they've been married more than once.
No. And what about on the women's side then? I mean, because does that apply? Are the statistics the same?
Well, I don't think it's just women. It could be men and women. I mean, it's
right.
not to say it's women. I mean, it's men and women. I mean, but the average age of, I don't know what the average age of a man was before the First World War, but I doubt it was probably more than about 45 or something.
Right.
Like and you know, with healthcare and proper sanitation and proper this and that, the other things have changed quite considerably. And so this idea that people would live to 120 is quite in the future. I mean, 100 years from now, they'll probably laugh at what I'm saying.
Oh no, absolutely. And if you look back in history, look in the Bible, the people are reporting about very long lives.
Yes, yes. Well, I don't. Yes, I don't know. Although I can say one thing. What do you think a man of 120 would really want?
A woman of 120
he'd want to be 121.
Right. Oh yes, I think that's right. To live to 121. No, you're absolutely right. And it does raise the whole thing. And we've talked about health beforehand. I mean, it's just been revealed that our former Prime Minister David Cameron has come out. He's been treated for prostate cancer. And that's something that you and I have discussed beforehand, your own battle, if you like, with cancer. And it's very encouraging that people talk about these things, those in the public eye. And it's the month of November. It's something I've been supporting for a long time. It's called Movember, where people basically talking about mental health and men's issues and men's cancers in particular. So it's very important to talk about it. You've obviously been very public about your journey, including when we met in London that time. What would you say to David Cameron and others who have the diagnosis about prostate cancer?
Well, you know, I was diagnosed with that last year, and it was caught. Apparently, it was, you know, caught. It was only in the prostate. So the prostate and the various what do they call those things? Some other stuff that you've got there around the prostate, some kind of nerves or
right.
Anyway, they were also removed with me on the one side anyway, and the prostate was removed, and then I've been to 2 or 3 tests since then, and I have no sign of this problem anymore.
Excellent.
But of course, you know, famous last words. You don't say things like "I'm clear." You know, you don't. You just hope you're clear. You know, but at any rate, they are finding ways to improve people's lives. I know that if the prostate is allowed, or any other organ, I suppose, is allowed to get bigger in terms of, you know, cancerous and stuff like that, and it spreads, and apparently to your bones and such like, you've had it. You know, you've had it. That's it. You've had it. But with the way they are looking at people now with all the tests. I mean, it used to be blood tests became the big thing. You know, it's wonderful to be able to check all your blood tests. Now it's, you go in and they actually look at your DNA. They look at your genome or something like that, and they you know, give you a rundown on everything of what's happening with you. You know, so I don't know. And it's not that expensive. Apparently, in the US, it's only $1,000 now.
Right.
Well, that's a lot of money. I mean, it's nearly £1,000 to go for one of these longevity tests, and it's a 5 or 6 hours, it's a whole day, 5 or 6 hours of being in these various machines and stuff, and MRI and Tesla machines and stuff. And then they look at your genome and they say to you, look, this is what your circumstances are, what's wrong with you. And they advise people to start doing that from the age of 14.
Right.
So they suggest that you go for one of these longevity tests at the age of 14, starting at the age of 14. And if you can throw your mind back to like 110 years ago, when people were dirt poor, I mean, if you told people then, well, you've got to go and see a good medical doctor every 6 months, God would say, listen, I can barely feed myself and my children. There's no way I'm going to head off to Harley Street to have a doctor check me out every 6 months. It's not possible. And in fact, in my own life, as a young boy, my parents were not well off. And if anything happened and I had to go, my brother and I, with just the two of us, he's a doctor now, by the way, he's a specialist. But anyway, he's a fellow of the Royal this and that as well. But anyway, but if we had to go to the doctor, it was a catastrophe in our home because my parents couldn't afford it, you see. So there were doctors when I was a kid of about 11, 12 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what age. There were doctors who allowed you to come for 10 shillings. You had to have 10 shillings. But I mean, so that would be it. You didn't have to pay more than 10 shillings, but it was 10 shillings. But the problem is that 10 shillings in the 50s, that's when I was that age. That was a hell of a lot of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? 10 shillings. I mean, the biggest currency was £5.
Right.
The biggest note was £5. Nobody used notes in those days. Everybody worked with half crowns and crowns. Nobody ever saw a crown, by the way. I never saw a crown. I saw plenty of half crowns. 2 shilling pieces, florins. Remember, they were called florins.
Yes.
Sixpence and ticky, threepence and so forth. And we worked everything with coins. And so you had to have 10 shillings to go and see a doctor. And this was a catastrophe in a way, in those days for your home. Today, it's obviously things are a lot better. I would imagine. I would think, but all depends.
It's tricky. I mean, there are several countries around the world, and people often criticize our National Health Service over here, but it is free at the point of entry. And you go and see to some places like America, they pat you down for your wallet first of all before treating you. Yes.
I've been in England once. With I can't remember when it was. It was a very long time ago. When for some or other reason we had come in at Dover from the hovercraft, as I recall, and then we went up, and then in Canterbury I went for somebody. I don't think it was me. I'm not even sure who was not feeling well, but it could have been me. But we went into a hospital there, and it was quite good. And they sorted me out, or I think it was me, sorted us out anyway, and no problem. No cost, no nothing. And that was quite, as I was not even a British, I mean, I'm from overseas, so that was quite nice. But I think you get that to a certain extent in a lot of places today. When I was sailing around the bowls of Africa a few years ago, we pulled in at the Cape Verde Islands, and I had developed an abscess on my, or bursa or something on my elbow. And I went to the local hospital, and they treated me and took it away and gave me all the right stuff. I think I had to pay for the medication, but they didn't charge me for anything else. It's sort of a Portuguese colony or something in the Cape Verde Islands, So there are places that still help people.
Yeah, and it is interesting, as I say, and going back to prostate cancer, there's like 55,000 British men are diagnosed every year. When they first get that diagnosis, it's quite devastating, obviously. You've been very public, and you and I have spoken about it beforehand. For David Cameron and others who have been given that diagnosis, what advice would you give them?
Well, the doctors are so good now that you just listen to what they tell you. Just tell them, listen to what they tell you and do what they say. And I would I would imagine that most of the cases, unless I'm wrong, but I would say most of the cases get treated. They don't. It's not like that's the end of the world. I mean, I actually thought that in my head, I thought if you get cancer, I don't. The word actually scares me. I try to avoid using it. But at any rate, if you get that, I had the impression that if you went into a medical doctor to see a medical doctor, he would say, sit down, and then, are you comfortable? And then get you a cup of tea, and then he'd say, would you like a biscuit? And all that, And then he'd say, are you feeling all right? How are you? Can I tell you something, And he'd don't worry what I'm going to tell you, something like that. And then they say to you, look, you've got a little bit of cancer, and you go, oh no, as you're drinking your tea. And then say, don't worry, or something like that. I thought they did it like that. No, they don't do it like that. I walked into this urologist, and I hadn't even sat down. And he said to me, you got cancer. I wasn't even sitting down.
Right.
I thought, holy, aren't you supposed to give it to me gently or something? You're going to tell me gently? I didn't say that. I just, oh, really? He said, yes. I said, right, well, what? You don't know what to say. And he said, well, we've got to get your prostate out. So I said to him, well, I'm on my way to England. This was last year. I've been invited to the 30th commemoration of the end of apartheid to be held at a service in a Westminster Abbey by the South African ambassador in England. And I've been invited to this service to be there, And it's on the 15th of July last year. And this was about towards the end of June. And I said, can I go to that first? He said, no, you can't. He said, no, you can't. I said, oh, you mean I have to do this first? He said, yes, you have to do this. I said, when? He said, well, I was 4 days from now, and then you can't fly for a long time, for 3 weeks or something, I don't know. And besides which, you won't want to fly, I can assure you. So, so I went in and bang, did it right away. So you have to listen to them, what they say. And, that's it. I mean, it's pretty weird because when you come out after having your prostate removed for the first time in your life, although this is perhaps a little, I don't know, delicate for people to hear, but you have no bowel, you have no urinary control. So now you don't have any control over wetting yourself, So you have to wear a nappy. So then the guy explains it to you that your body will accommodate the situation. I see you look terribly shocked. I hope you're not shocked.
No, I'm not shocked at all. I think it's very refreshing to talk about these things. Yes.
So your body will accommodate, and then it will do this and this and this. And true as Bob, I don't have any. That problem's gone months ago for me. Very fortunate, and it's gone.
Right.
And your body makes a new plan for you. And the body is incredible. I mean, obviously, the human body is a marvel. Nobody can understand. It's just it's just a marvel. But at any rate, so now I don't have that problem anymore either. But that's what you start off with.
Right.
So it's a bit tricky, and it's not very sexy.
Well, and what's so refreshing, and it's with the typical Errol Musk sense of humor that you discuss these things, but it's very refreshing when those in the public eye, such as yourself, do talk about it, because it is comforting for others going through the process. And as I say, I've been supporting this Movember, which they do every November, raising money and awareness for men's health about prostate cancer, and urging people to get tested early, so you can have a look at that side, look at the signs and so on and so forth. But also, as you say, to turn around and say, look, there is hope, isn't there? It's not the end of the world.
No. The other thing is, of course, I had various tests because I had an open heart operation about 8 years ago, which was drastic. I mean, that was drastic. I mean, they cut your heart open and put a new valve in your heart. I mean, you're on a heart-lung machine. I mean, that was super drastic. But at any rate, after that, I had to have regular 6-month checkups, and so when you have these checkups, I had no problem at all. So you have to have the checkups regularly. You can't go for a checkup for let's say prostate. You have to do it. I mean, I would imagine annually or something like that. Annually, at least annually. I would say every year you need to have these blood tests done. And I'm actually surprised to see the other day when I was in one of the pharmacies that they had a thing saying that they can do the prostate or the PSA test, which is a prostate test. They can do it for only £100. No, £10. £10. Right. And they had a sort of, I don't know, it sounds kind of corny, but they had a special until the end of November. It was £10 for the pharmacy. They've got a new way of testing. So it's very, very easy now. It's not as though you have to go get a prescription, go to a blood test center, wait for the doctor to call you. You can just do it at a pharmacy now. So a lot of those things are happening in that direction.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, isn't it? And
we're very lucky. We're very, very lucky.
Yeah, that has to be the message, and more people who talk about it not being shocked at all, but at all turn. I mean, obviously, I have King Charles has been open about his cancer. We've had Princess Catherine has cancer and being treated for that sort of stuff. The more people who can speak about it, the less there will be a stigma in getting yourself checked. Also, there's encouraging stuff at the moment. There's so many seismic advances in medicine. They're finding new cures all the time, aren't they? There was a 3-year-old being reported today, 3-year-old Oliver Chu in Manchester. He's become the first child in the world to receive life-changing gene therapy for previously untreatable Hunter syndrome. So that's just been announced today. So I think the more that people can do things, and that's the thing when you're talking about longevity and everything else, Errol, is to turn around and say, look, there is hope for people. Do reach out and talk to others who've been through similar experiences.
Yes. Well, I do remember Elon recently went over to, not that for anything that was wrong with him, he had some talking with some British medical group there in England about some advance that they had made. And I forgot what it was, but these advances are happening all the time. Yeah. And so they've been happening for 100 years, So, I mean, when you went to a hospital, before the First World War, the only thing they had to clean anything was carbolic acid. They didn't have anything. Everything was cleaned with carbolic acid. Doesn't matter what it was, you cleaned it with carbolic acid.
Right.
And I mean, it was pretty, but it's a progress. I mean, you can't say to those people of those days they were not good or something. They were doing the best they could. And I mean, consider the technology required to make a hypodermic needle. A needle that you can barely, as thick as a hair,
right,
and it's got a hole through the middle. How do you make that? I mean, just making that is
it is quite, and as I say, there've been seismic advances in medicine. They're finding cures for all sorts of diseases they didn't think they could possibly find cures for. So medicine, they can now map the whole human genome, can't they, on that sort of basis as well, which is fantastic. So you can look at the DNA and as you say, getting tested and working that out and working on that sort of basis. And we're going to look at some of those seismic advances. Elon's been at the forefront of those when we come back after the break. But for now, Errol, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.